Hey Vaughn, hi Lee. He's so much more social. I love it. I love how he's smiling and he's socializing with us. Yes, not just me. It's with the fact that if it's by myself, I'm sure Cove would be fine. But the fact that he's cool with both myself and Lee, thank you. Hi Cove. Can you hang out now? He gave you a placid smile. One you were all too familiar with. Sure. You kids take care, alright? I'll be around if you need anything. Mr. Holden shuffled back into the house and closed the front door, giving you some privacy. Cove tilted his head at you, his bangs falling into his face as he did so. What's up? Lee said nothing, eyes shifting to you instead and waiting for you to speak. There's a lot going on right now. It's nothing. You didn't speak to him. I needed to talk to you. My parents are dead. Don't say that! I needed to talk to you. Cove's forehead furrowed in concern at your words. Well, I'm here. You can tell me. My mom and dad, who gave birth to me, they're dead. I wouldn't have put it that way. Without having to say anything else, Cove reached out and pulled you into a tight embrace, his familiar warmth enveloping you. Is this a new song? I don't recognize this music. I'm sorry, Vaughn. His words were whispered comfortingly into your shoulder. You don't have to do this. I'm okay. You started to cry. You took a step back from him. I'm okay. I'm glad you are. Still, he didn't let go. Can we talk somewhere else? You felt uncomfortable huddling around the entrance of Cove's house. That feeling didn't seem to be a problem, though. Yeah, let's go. Let's go! Cove took you by the arm and encouraged you along behind him. You followed without protest. Lee stayed just as close as she followed along. You headed towards the hills where you and Lee had spent the majority of your day. Things seemed so different then, only a couple hours ago, and you wondered how everything had changed so drastically. You took a seat in the grass beside Cove, who bent his legs and rested his arms on them before he turned to you again. Can you explain everything to me? You nodded softly before taking in a heavy breath and launching into the story. Cove sat quietly and listened attentively, nodding every now and then or taking in a sharp inhale. It took a long time for you to relay the details. Dozens of stars were pinpointed in the sky as the night wore on. Silence settled between you as Cove sat quietly for a moment, contemplating everything you had said. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, drifting through the night towards you. Vaughn.
I'm so sorry.
I'm really sorry about what happened to your parents. So sorry. He stopped suddenly and then took in a deep, shaky breath, and you got the impression he was struggling with what was right to say. I'm sad I'll never get to know them. I feel bad that I don't feel worse about it. I'm just so mad. You shrugged your shoulders, not knowing how to feel. I'm sad I'll never get to know them. I'll never find out what they're doing or what they're like as people. It's just all gone. Vaughn, you're not doing anything wrong. You know that, right? I think that you can be as sad as you want for as long as you need, or you can feel okay about it whenever you want to. He sighed and ran a hand through his hair as he looked out over the ocean.
It's okay.
I guess what I'm trying to say is whatever you feel about it is how you feel about it, and you don't have to force yourself to be different. Thank you, Cove. His words have made you feel better, and you knew it was true. You didn't have to apologize or make any excuses for the way that you felt about it all. Cove smiled at you a little, and you could tell he was trying to be comforting. And your moms definitely don't. It doesn't matter if you're not blood related, you're definitely family. I can see that, and I hope you can too. Yeah, I mean, I think the only reason why I don't believe that I would be, like, crying about it is because my moms, in this situation, my moms are my parents. They're the only parents I've ever known. You know, I love my parents. These might be my biological parents, but they're technically strangers to me. And I don't really have any, like, attachment to them besides knowledge that I happen to have their DNA, you know? So I think that's why I'm not, like, breaking down crying in this scene, because I don't realistically feel like I would be breaking down crying. I would be sad that I wouldn't at least get to pique I wouldn't be able to satiate my curiosity, because I'm sure I'd be very curious and interested in at least meeting them in person, but I wouldn't say that I'd be devastated. No, I don't believe I would be. You felt the reassurance in his eyes. Your cousin tried not to interrupt your explanation or Cove's response to it. When the opportunity arose, she made it clear she shared the same sentiment. You stayed up on the hill together, a little longer, looking out over the ocean and the stars that shone brightly above it. After talking about the situation with someone who wasn't directly a part of it, you started to see things in a different light. Above all, you were glad to have Cove's and Leaf's support, and to know you could count on them if you needed it. Hey! The sudden voice of your sister behind you made you jump. You saw her standing a little way away. She walked closer, and you didn't quite know what to do or what she was planning on saying.
So?
Would you mind going? I want to talk to just Vaughn. You can come back. It's not going to be forever or anything. Cove seemed equal parts concerned and skeptical. Leaving now wasn't a concept that thrilled him. I don't blame him. Lee wasn't exactly jumping to go, so she checked with you quietly. What do you think? You can't ask that. You nodded your head in agreement. I want to talk to you too. I'll just nod in agreement. I don't feel like I have the greatest relationship with my sister, so I think I would be cordial to her. I feel like with my sister, I try to keep the peace as much as possible, but I don't know if I necessarily would feel like I would go out of my way to I wouldn't go out of my way to go after her, for example. That's why I didn't go after Elizabeth earlier. I wanted to go after Cove, because I don't feel that I have that type of relationship with my sister. But if she wanted to talk to me privately, I would respect her request and say, okay. If she wanted to talk to you in private, it was obviously about something important. You waited until the two of you were alone before fixing her with an inquisitive look. Elizabeth folded her arms, looking over. Did Mom tell you about your parents too? My birth parents also died. Elizabeth broke eye contact after that.
Sorry.
Why did you want to talk to me? Elizabeth raised an eyebrow at the question, as though the answer should be obvious. I was worried about you. I was the one who brought it up, but I made you deal with whatever was left when I was gone. Well, that was really nice of you, Elizabeth. Credit where credit's due. She sighed, glancing upwards for a moment before settling on you once more. I wanted to ask you what happened without everyone breathing down our necks. I'm amazed you noticed that was unkind. Thank you for thinking of me. I'm not mad at you. You were quietly surprised. I was surprised by her admission. She stuck her nose up a little at that, but her smile was soft. I'm okay, Elizabeth. It didn't upset me. How are you allowed to be that mature? I don't know. I always felt like I was pretty darn mature growing up as a kid. I don't know. Maybe it's an Asian thing. The lightning spirits in her were quickly gone as she slipped back into a scowl. You have to be born in the U.S. to become president. What? Oh, that's right. Elizabeth wants to be president. You had never heard of that dream of hers before. She noticed your bafflement and continued. That's a rule that I just don't know if it's necessary anymore. Like, maybe when our forefathers in America made that rule, they thought that was the right thing to do. But nowadays, I just feel like, why? Can it at least be like, has been a citizen for X number of years, has been a citizen for 20 years, whatever. Even 20 years could arguably be too long, I don't know. But I feel like, sorry, you weren't born in the US, therefore you can never be president of the United States. I don't know, I just feel like that's really odd and strange. A really strange rule nowadays. So I would like to see that rule changed, amended at some point, because it just doesn't feel like, it just feels so unnecessary. You had never heard of that dream of hers before. She noticed your bafflement and continued. I get I was never going to be president, but it just feels weird having stuff taken away, not even getting a chance at it. I don't like having to know that when I was born, I was going to have a completely different life. So different I can't even think about what it looked like in my head. I could have spoken another language, lived away from everything I've ever seen here, had someone else as my sibling, and then my parents died and I was adopted, and the life I got became a totally new thing forever. I mean, maybe it would have been for the better. You don't know. Maybe this is actually the much better life than if you stayed behind. I don't know. I can't go back to what it was even if I wanted to. A heaviness settled between you and the person who became your sister. I mean, for people like myself who was biologically born from my parents, I mean, I don't have anything to go back to even if I wanted to either. Other than, besides what I did get, there's nothing else for me to go back to even if I wanted to go to something else. So, I mean, it kind of applies even if you're not adopted. The same thing applies. But, I mean, I understand that she's upset. A heaviness settled between you and the person who became your sister. I feel like that too. You knew exactly how she felt. I feel like that too. I'm just gonna say I don't really understand. I can't see that other stuff as being my life. The one I have is what my life is, and everything else is only what didn't happen. Elizabeth watched you seriously. She was still trying to make sense of this to you and herself. I don't know why today was the day. Nothing came up to make me ask the question. It was just something I've had in my head for a while. When it was just me and my mom's in the living room, I just kind of said it finally, and there you go. She shifted from one foot to another, relaxing her stance just a bit. She also spoke more gently. Learning about them and what happened doesn't change how I feel about our family, Vaughn. Well, I'm glad. She smirked, fixing you with sharp eyes. I'd already figured a long time ago that moms weren't our biological parents. That wasn't news. Technically, one of them could have been related to you. You kept listening to Elizabeth. It really doesn't change anything. I mean, I would have said this. Technically, one of them could have been related to you. Our moms can have kids, just not both together. True, but I'm not half white or native Hawaiian. So no, neither of them could have been my mom. Oh, so one of them was native Hawaiian. I see.
Nice try.
Nice try, smart Alec. Nothing about the family I was born first in would have made me decide that this wasn't my family anymore. If you had hoped you'd be free of my big sisterly status, don't think you're so lucky. She bumped her shoulders against yours playfully, her lips tilted at the corners. I do admit, I know that I said that I wasn't particularly close to my sister, but at least she's trying. And I mean, I have to, again, recognize that. And since she's reaching out, I want to try to reach her halfway too, to meet her halfway as well.
You'll always be my little brother.
I guess I don't have much of a choice, so awesome. You smiled softly at her. You jokingly groaned at the prospect. You bumped her back. You hugged her. I'll smile at her. I think I'm really lucky. You took in the moment quietly. I'll say it, you'll always be my family too. Chuckling, she seemed pleased with how the conversation had gone in the end. Yeah, good. Ready to head back home? It's been a long day. You gave her a nod.
Come on.
Come on, you three. Come on, you three, let's go. You walked home together in a comfortable silence down the well-worn street. The familiarity of it all felt nice. When you stepped through the door, you found your moms quietly sitting together at the kitchen table. Their heads snapped up and they got to their feet to meet you, Ma giving you a careful smile. We're so glad to see you. Hi, I'm sorry for walking away before. Everything's alright, you said nothing. Everything is alright. That's wonderful, sweetheart, really wonderful. Ma then came over and wrapped her arms around you and Elizabeth, giving you a tight hug. It didn't take long for Mom to join in, putting her arms around the both of you.
Love you.
We really couldn't have asked for better, kiddos. We love you. More than we could ever say. Moms. You smiled at their comfort. You were glad your moms were right. You're smooshing me. Oh, you were so glad your moms were all right. I love you too. You let them hug you for as long as they needed, and it was a nice moment shared between you. They both pulled back eventually and grinned at the two of you, and you knew then that you all had each other, and you always would. Well now, since we're all here, how about we do something together as a family? That sounds like an excellent idea. We should have some fun before the night's over.
Totally!
I love the sound of that. Okay. But Cove means yeah, let's do it. Cove looked a little bashful, likely over being included as part of the family, but he tried not to pay much attention to it. Why not? You hid the smile that threatened to tilt your lips, knowing that Elizabeth must have been in a good mood if she hadn't even teased Cove for being part of it. And no matter what she could have said about it, you wanted him to be there. He was someone who was really important to you. Who's got a suggestion? It should be something we can do here in the house with everyone in the same room. You suddenly remembered the show you and Lee had been working on earlier. Maybe we can do our show. You were bummed you never got to do it after all that. You weren't so keen on that show after what had happened. Maybe we can do our show.
Oh.
A show? This is the first time we were hearing this. I'm intrigued.
Wonderful.
It would be amazing if you put it on for us to watch. Oh yeah, I need to see what you've cooked up. That's really nice of Elizabeth. She's being really nice to us. But I mean, after that, she kind of has to, she's riding through the heels of the bonding moment that we had. That'd be cool. You smiled at Lee, who returned the gesture while bouncing on her heels in excitement. Take some seats and we'll get everything together. Your moms collected the chairs from around the dining table and set them in a row in the living room, where there was enough space for the show. While they did that, you and Lee quickly gathered the supplies you needed and rehashed the plan one last time. You went through the song you had written one last time. When the two of you returned to the living room, everyone was sitting and chatting amongst themselves while they waited. The group quieted down when you and Lee stood in front of them on your makeshift stage. Lee was buzzing quietly with excitement beside you. You felt nervous all of a sudden. You were pumped for the show. You were unsure how to feel. No, I'm pumped. The time you and Lee had put on into practicing was worth it. You were ready to go. Okay, so welcome to our show. We only came up with it today, but we promise it'll be good. You stayed quiet. Thank you for being here tonight. No refunds. You're gonna be really impressed. I'm gonna crack a joke. No refunds. Laughter rippled through the mini audience. Then you nodded at Lee that you were ready to begin. Lee took in a deep breath, waiting the few beats it took to get to the song, and started singing. Your part of the song joined in just a few moments later, and you smiled at each other as you sang together. It made you proud to have the lyrics you had written sung like this. Nice. When the performance was over, Lee took your hand in hers, and the two of you bowed deeply together. Everyone gave you a round of applause and cheered for an encore. When you straightened yourself up, you were happy to see that even Elizabeth was clapping for you. Bravo! Bravo!
Good job.
You are so talented. Your family rose from their seats and came over to congratulate you more directly. You were beaming from ear to ear. Cove was the first one to approach, stepping up to you and Lee with a smile on his face.
It's nice.
Nice job. Thank you. You're a really great singer, Vaughn. It was cool. Thanks. I was pretty good, huh? You blushed and said nothing. Luckily, we had a crowd who's easily impressed. Since it's Cove, I would blush and say nothing. Cove chuckled and shook his head. Hey, were you the one who wrote that song? Yeah, that was me. Cove smiled, content over his guess being correct.
Not bad.
I thought so. It was good. You couldn't help but feel flattered that he could recognize your talent so easily. Your parents gushed about how great everything was and thanked you for sharing with them. Elizabeth was complimentary in her own way, although she did describe the show as cute, which you knew she meant as kind of kiddie. You laughed it off, however, and were just happy that everyone had a nice time. In that moment, you couldn't have been more pleased to be part of the family you had. I really liked that. That was a really sweet one. I did not expect that to be the main topic for that. But it makes sense, because family, when you're thinking about that, you might think it's pretty generic. You're like, yeah, well, aren't most of these about family, either friends or family? But then, we started getting a lot of history and things that we just didn't know about Vaughn and Elizabeth, and then got to spend some of that time with Lee in addition to Cove, and then got to dictate how we perform their show. Really, again, that was one of my favorite moments. Another one of my favorite moments, I would say, especially since we did get to have that really awesome bonding moment with our sister. So, and I think that's important. Okay, let's try Escapade next. The last of the DLCs. You looked up, noticing the sun was finally setting. You had been trying to delay the end of the day for as long as possible. The evening breeze tickled your nose as you sat on your front porch, munching on fresh watermelon slices. I love watermelon. The snack made you happy. You thought watermelon was just okay. You were eating it just because watermelon was a summer tradition. You weren't sure even why you were eating it. I mean, I love watermelon, but I wouldn't say it was like my top tier of fruits. It's great, especially in the summer, but I thought watermelon was just okay. When I got older, I appreciated watermelon way more. But back then, I think it was because we ate it so often. My parents bought it all the time. And so I think I just got so like overloaded with watermelon that it just kind of lost its specialness. So you were debating on whether or not you should eat another slice. It was an alright sweet snack, but you were still content from dinner. You turned to look to Cove. You both had been sitting in comfortable silence for a while now. He sat next to you, close enough for your shoulders to touch. He was happily absorbed in his thoughts and his own slice of watermelon. Chuckling, you watched as his face twisted in discomfort. He had to stop chewing to spit a seed into the bush. Yeah, the seeds are like my least favorite. I think that was why I wasn't a huge fan of watermelon, is because the watermelon was great, but the seeds, because I couldn't just devour it, I couldn't just, bite and chew and swallow. I had to like stop and check for the seeds. The effort of doing that was what kind of made watermelon only okay. I love watermelon flavored beverages, because watermelon flavored beverages I don't have to worry about accidentally swallowing seeds. So I do like watermelon flavored things. I just don't like the effort of having to constantly check to make sure I don't have seeds in my mouth. You shook your head in disapproval. Ew, you did the same and spat seeds in the bush. I bet I can spit a seed farther than you. I wouldn't do any of these. I would have just said nothing. I wouldn't do this. You shook your head. I wouldn't do this in disapproval. You did the same and spat seeds. I do it on the plate. I don't just do it in the bush. But maybe I should be doing it in the bush because it's it's organic. It's completely organic. I probably should be spitting it into the wilderness than, throwing it into the trash can. These two, I wouldn't say ew. I'll just do the same and spat seed in the bushes. The two of you had made a little bit of a habit of periodically doing that while you had been snacking. This time you decided to make it a topic of conversation. I hate how it feels to swallow them, those hard black seeds. Same here. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. You both went back to eating in comfortable silence, still occasionally spitting unwanted seeds into the bushes. I wonder if I'll have another slice after this one. That one is your third already. Is that bad? It tastes really good. I mean, watermelon is the vast majority water, so like, it's not really bad for you to eat a lot. Having 3 slices is nothing. That's like having essentially a glass and a half of water. That's pretty much. You bumped him with your shoulder. Unable to resist, you knocked the mostly finished slice out of his hand. I wouldn't do that. You smiled at him. No, it's alright. It's definitely bad. You sighed affectionately. No, it's alright. It isn't super filling, and there's still a lot left. Why not? Alright, that's all I needed. He picked up a 4th slice with confidence and looked at you. His smile stretched ear to ear. As a foodie, I am never gonna discourage someone from getting another slice of what they like or what they love. Why would I do that as a foodie? A little while later, Cove flinched, making a confused sound. He slowly put his current slice down on the plate next to him. Are you okay? Yeah. He stood up, head tilted back to look at the sky. His feet took him to the middle of the street. Did you notice anything? What do you mean? I thought I felt a raindrop. The sun's still out. You put down your watermelon slice and hopped off of your front step. Immediately, you felt a tap of water on the crown of your head, making you yelp. You're right. Cove was still staring up at the sky, and you watched as he began blinking more rapidly. When he finally turned in your direction, his face was bemused. It's a sun shower. I've only witnessed that like 2 or 3 times in my life, and it's really neat. It's really cool having a sun shower. It seemed crazy, but soon you couldn't avoid the drops that began increasing into a light shower. Booming with laughter, Cove kicked off his shoes towards his front door and reveled in the moment. You were excited. You hid from the rain. You were annoyed with sudden sprinkling. It felt kind of special to you. At that age, I did not like being out in the rain. I just didn't like getting wet. Not unless I was bathing. You know, I'm not a water person. So being out in the rain, not my idea of fun. However, I was sort of like, in college, I was conditioned to it because I was in marching band. And in marching band, you pretty much were out there in all types of weather, including rain. So I just kind of, you know. But at the time, no. Not excited. I hid from the rain. You were annoyed with the sudden sprinkling. It felt kind of special to you. No, I hid from the rain. You dashed back under your awning in hopes of staying at least a little dry. But you couldn't even be mad about the shower that caught you. Cove's joyful jumping and spinning was infectious, and had you grimacing from a distance. I mean, this makes perfect sense. Cove is a big water person, so I'm not. You're going to look like you fell in the ocean. You're going to look like you fell in the ocean. So what? Just as suddenly as the sprinkling started, it stopped and left you dripping with the smell of wet asphalt and soil tickling your nose. Cove caught your eyes, running a hand through his wet hair. Combing it back, he frowned. I'm sure Cove looks great in wet clothes, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Aww.
It's over. Well, Cove, we're just gonna have to dry your clothes then. You know what I'm saying? The drops of rain clinging to his face almost could have been mistaken for tears. He sounded that disappointed. Well, it was fun. I wish it lasted longer. I've had enough of rain for one summer day. You didn't have anything to say. You were charmed by Cove. I mean, I wouldn't say any of these things. I wouldn't say anything. He looked at how his clothes were sticking to his body. Yeah, probably would have noticed that too. For such a quick shower, it sure did a lot. It did enough. But he didn't sound angry at that. Instead, he laughed. He then looked over at your door and sighed. You knew Ma wasn't going to be happy to see you trailing water to the house. I tried to hide from it. Cove rubbed his arm awkwardly. He must have been thinking the same thing because he watched you sympathetically.
It's okay.
You can dry off at my house if you want. My parents won't mind. Thanks, let's do that. You're the sweetest guy I know. I don't want to cause trouble. I'm fine. You're the sweetest guy I know. Thanks. It's not a big deal. It is. I could already hear my ma's cries over my wet footsteps being all over the halls. Yeah, it could be bad to put a dampener on the day. He chuckled at his little pun. Cove led you inside and you stayed close to him. We have a ton of spare towels. I just gotta dig them out of the hall closet. Thank you for doing this. What should I do? I think I'm gonna need to borrow some clothes from you too. Sure. I'm just gonna ask, what should I do? If I was being really flirtatious, I would do this. But at that age, I don't think I was that flirtatious. So I'll say, what should I do? Just hang out in the living room. Okay. And maybe don't sit on the couch. You answered him with a slight smile. Yeah, good idea. With that, Cove disappeared and returned in no time, towels in hand. Here. Thanks. You accepted one and began to pat yourself down. The sudden call caught both of your attentions. I thought I heard voices. Cove's mom strolled into the living room with a curious grin.
Huh?
What happened here? You're both wet. There was a sun shower. Bad A. Cove smiled back at his parent. We came inside to dry off. My moms don't want me going into my house when I'm wet.
Right.
So I told Vaughn to come back here. That was very sweet of you, baby. She ruffled Cove's wet hair and laughed at the drops of water that shook off. Then a light came into Kyra's eyes.
What do you think?
I have an idea. Why don't we go for a drive? It has to beat standing around the house, and you'll air dry in no time. Cove only offered a shrug and bent a smile to his mom. He looked at you for a real answer. Yeah, let's do it. You weren't sure at all about her suggestion. I don't know if my parents would want me to. Nah, let's do it. It'll be fun. Fun! This'll be good. We can go cruising for boys. All three of us. No. Kyra pulled out her cell phone from her pocket to call your moms. They had swapped numbers early in the summer.
See you soon.
Head out to the garage. I'll meet you there in just a minute.
Sorry.
Sorry, my mom can be so pushy. She gets an idea in her head and that's what she does. That's okay. Thanks for letting me come. I didn't do anything. That wasn't true at all, but you let him get away with that.